Grace, mercy, peace, and joy be to you from God our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on this Epiphany Sunday, as we Gentiles, as we worship the Savior and King. In our country, there is certainly news about a war. Whatever your political beliefs may be about the wall, it is something that is being discussed. It is something that separates. It is something that is there for a purpose. It is something that is causing a lot of turmoil in our country at the moment. But today we're talking about a wall as well. A wall that came down. And it is an incredible, incredible account that Paul writes in our text for today. And if you think about it, it is one of the most astounding realities that God has revealed to us about walls. The reason we may or may not need walls in life is basically because the walls that we're talking about in our text for this morning is because it is not followed by so many people. And being able to see what is there really that brings peace among people and peace between God. This is astounding. It's astounding because the wall that exists is taken down, and there's a wall, and if you happen to look in the bulletin and looking at the different parts that we're talking about today, we're going to talk about first the part that there needs to be no separation. God and humans don't need to be separated anymore. And that's part of what Christmas and looking forward to Good Friday, Easter, all through Jesus' mission ministry is about. And there also needs to be no wall. Jew and Gentiles don't need a wall to be separated. And even Jew and Arab do not need a wall. And Gentile don't need a wall. No one needs a wall with each other. If only one thing was true. If people in their heart believe exactly what St. Paul is saying, which is reflecting what we remember on this day. The Epiphany, that word meaning to make known, to reveal. God reveals himself, and in this church year of the Epiphany season, he reveals himself as the Savior for all people, and he reveals himself as also someone who is true God and true man in order to save us. If you look at that text that St. Paul wrote for us in Ephesians chapter 2, he writes some amazing things. He writes, "Therefore, remember that formerly you who are Gentiles by birth and called uncircumcised by those who call themselves the circumcision, which is done in the body by human hands. Remember that at that time you were separate from Christ, excluded from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants of the promise, without hope and without God in the world." Do you realize what Paul is saying there? He's talking to a group of Christians now, Jew and Gentile. And he's talking about, look, yes, the Jews also did make fun of you in general. They called you uncircumcised. Oh, you people weren't good enough. You're just outsiders. You're pagans. You're uncircumcised. It was kind of a demeaning kind of term. You uncircumcised Gentiles. And Paul in his letters, not just in Ephesians but elsewhere, he had two things to address. He addressed the Jews. He addressed the Jews and he said, look, you Jews, remember Paul's a Jew himself, obviously a believing Jew. He's speaking to unbelieving Jews. He said, you think you have everything. And you do. You are near to God. You have all the promises. You have the promises that God gave beginning with Abraham. You have all the covenants that God gave, beginning with Adam. You have all the promises of Adam. You have the covenants, the agreements, the promise that came to Abraham, and that all of his offspring, and his offspring as well, that there would be a coming Messiah. There would be a coming Savior. All the promises that God had to be with his people, Old Testament people. The Ten Commandments being given to Moses. That was done to God's Old Testament people. God's presence, his visible presence in the wilderness. All the prophets that God sent. Everything to God's people in the promise of the coming Messiah. You Jews, we have that. But guess what? As he would write elsewhere too. We don't practice what we believe. You don't keep the law either. God gave you all these laws. Do you keep them? He said you don't keep them. And he spoke to the Gentiles. And we keep reiterating over and over to be in the Word and to know and to live our baptismal lives. We have peace with God. Why in the world can we pray to God? What makes us so arrogant to say, Lord, I'm going to pray to you now. If I don't have Jesus Christ, or I've left him out of my life. I hope we never get to that point in our lives. All of us gathered here regularly on a Sunday to worship, all of us, each of us in our lives, is to say, God, I know what I need. I am not arrogant. I know that there's a wall of sin that's between you and me, and I need Jesus Christ. And I have access to you and can pray to you with a certain confidence that you are hearing me. Because that wall is broken down by Jesus Christ. For he himself is our peace. There is nothing better in life to be able to go home today and say, I've got peace with you, God. Not because I've confessed my sin and heard forgiveness pronounced from Christian to Christian, as the Bible says we can do, that we are to do, but because I have Jesus Christ in my heart, I believe and trust in him, and I hear the forgiveness of sins from Christian to Christian. Lord, I'm assured of that. It's through my faith and the promise that you have given me that my sins are forgiven in Christ. And that spills over then. It spills over to our life. 95%, and there also can be physical things that are involved, but relationships that break down in families, among each other, in congregations, in communities. Again, it gets back to, do I have that peace in my heart? If I've got peace in knowing that Jesus Christ is my Savior, how can there be any hostility between Christian country? I hope that that's a minority in our country, and I hope that we speak up as Christians when we hear anything about that, or hear anybody that we know at work, whatever it is. We hear people saying those kinds of jokes or things about anybody of any different color or any different, even religion, that they need Jesus Christ, but belittle them. We're totally different, aren't we? Jesus Christ, you who were once far away and have been brought near by the blood of Christ, for he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one, and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations. His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity out of the two, thus making peace. And in one body, whether himself is talking about or the church, to reconcile both of them to God through the cross, by which he put to death their hostility. You notice hostility, the war that is there between people, it's done with. It is gone. He came and preached peace to you who were far away, and peace to those who were near. All the regulations, everything from the Old Testament. You know, it should be one thing. It's nice to be Christians in a sense, isn't it? You go back and look at all the Old Testament regulations. Why don't we follow all those? Because those pertain to the time that God had his people. The Jews were separate. The Jews were separate between themselves and everybody else. God between us and anyone else. Easier said than done. But listen to what Paul goes on to say. At one time, we too were foolish and disobedient. Paul including himself. We were foolish. We were disobedient, we deceived, the way that we act in life, and that's a good way for us to look at life. What is my life? Is my life one of worshiping Jesus? Is it one coming to him?